What's up, y'all? What's up, all my soul G's? It's been a while, but all I'm doing is say I'm back at it. I'm back at it, and hopefully I can stay consistent with it. But it really just determined by my schedule and everything. But today, I just decided to hop back in there with all of the stuff going on today in the world, like the stuff going on in Palestine, Israel, uh, that whole realm of things. It's been revealing a lot of stuff over the last couple months, ever since October, really. And I've always been on top of certain things. They call me Mo. My name is Mars, and that's known as the god of war in some cultures. And I find war very interesting. It's not like I like it. I don't like it at all. The reason I find it interesting is actually because of the fact that I hate it. You know, it's used in today's world in a very strange way. It's not used the way that it was originally, you know, started, I guess. But with that being said, it has a lot of intricacies in it. And when you have a lot of intricacies, you have to realize that um, sometimes you need to like dive into those different aspects. Personally, I don't consider myself any religion or anything. Not necessarily spiritual. More so like I have my own what you would call spirituality called soul job. But inside of that, I'm very curious about other people's belief systems. And the one thing I know about Israel, not Israel, one thing I know about Israel is that it's a complex thing because there's something called Zionism. And when I was young, you got introduced to conspiracy theories at a young age uh, at this rate of culture we're at. When I was young, I heard about Zionism in a very interesting way. It was never seen as a positive thing. I never seen it manifest as as what those people were claiming it to be. Now let me be straight. The people who were claiming Zionism to be this pitch black evil thing at the time wasn't necessarily just conservatives, but it was a very conservative based conspiracy. With that being said, it didn't come into fruition like outside of a couple news stories. And you, if you keep up with war like I do, you already know what's going on in terms of like America giving out its money to these different vassal states with the agenda that whatever America wanted to be in. Has always been one of those. But from the aspect of where, it manifests to be like this dark thing that everybody's actually been able to see at one time collectively and say that's fucked up and do something about it. It forces you to be very open minded and help you understand how complex some of these religions actually are, like Judaism, because the whole fact of Judaism is that, you know, not the whole fact, I'm gonna say one of the facts of Judaism that I thought I knew was that they promised like some in they fucking Torah or like said they not supposed to have their own state. Like they're not supposed to be like 100% in control of a land or something like that. I'm not going to put words in their fucking religion, but that's what an understanding I have. And eventually, that's why you have Orthodox Jews who practice, religions more based off of the word. And then you have like the Zionists, which is why this video that we're about to watch is so important. You got a guy who considers himself to be a rabbi. He's a rabbi. I'm not sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to consider. We have a rabbi here who, would probably be considered more orthodox, especially when it comes to like the understanding of the Torah and the Talmud and all that other type of shit. Uh, Opposed to the Zionists who see that and use it in a way where the same way you can infiltrate Black Lives Matter or KKK, or the same way you can infiltrate any like what you would call grassroots movement. It's the same way that inside of these religions, you have these feuds where people who are of the orthodoxy will call out the bullshit. So let's hear what my boy Rabbi Shapiro has to say. Just gonna play it from here.
That you are not what you think you are. A Jew is not.
Now,
Today's
mind you, I
guest,
am gonna be
Rabbi
skipping around
Yaakov
this a little
Shapiro,
bit.
an international speaker, author, and rabbi for over 30 years. Well-known critic of Zionism.
What is a Jew?
Definition of a Jew is it's a religion, job description given by God. We are only a people because of our faith. God is able to fulfill these commandments. Zionist plan was to change the definition of a Jew to a nationality. They stripped Judaism of religious content, left the husk of whatever they could fit into their nationalism. Zionism is its own religion.
So he already spent heat. He already spent heat already. Like this is just the intro. Obviously, they do like little clip intros on YouTube and shit. But he already spent facts, and basically, I just stopped it right there just because he said something that I want to correct earlier. He said about the national that they not supposed to have their own nation in a way. Like they not supposed to like be nationalistic in that nature based off of their religion. And Zionism exploits that. They say it's like they take every aspect of Judaism that like basically is surrounded around not believing in not having a nationality, and they exploit it.
Official Jewish flavoring started creating cultural centers and schools and brainwashing. Zionists had to convince the Jews that you are not what you think you are. A Jew is not a race. They are Jews of all races. A Jew is not an ethnicity. You can't convert to an ethnicity. And Jews are also not a nationality. The Jews had no flag. Difficult to believe that Ivanka Trump and Sammy Davis Jr., who converted to Judaism, are both of the same ethnicity.
I often confuse them.
Hello and welcome to episode 100 of the Palestine Pod, the weekly podcast where we break down the latest headlines dealing with Palestine from all over the world and bring you stories, commentary, and interviews with the aim of supporting the Palestinian struggle for on the differences between Judaism and Zionism. It is perhaps the most comprehensive work written on the subject. Rabbi Shapiro, welcome to the Palestine Pod.
Thank you very much for having me.
We're so honored to have you. Thank you so much for coming on the pod. I consider you like the LeBron James of Jews.
I consider LeBron James the rabbi of sports.
Hilarious.
So before we start anything, we're going to start off and just announce that this guy's geeked up. Now, mind you, this is the setup I had to do right now. If you want to watch this video, I'll put the link below. So go watch that yourself and add another view or whatever. But this is the best setup I got, just so you know. Stay focused. This nigga is geeked up though. If you could see this a little bit better, you could see his eyes. He on shrooms or something like that. And that's a good thing.
Hilarious response. This interview is going to be amazing. I say that because you're always dunking on Zionists, and it's just nice to see Jews dunk.
That's very good. The real truth is that the Zionists dunk on Jews rather than the Jews dunking on Zionists. Zionism itself was created as a substitute for Judaism, a replacement for Judaism, and a way to negate Judaism.
Yeah, so that takes us to our first question. What is a Jew?
Well, that's a very good question. And it's a question that Zionists are unable to answer because they negated the real definition. When I say the real definition, I mean the only intellectually consistent one. Let's first start with what a Jew is not. A Jew is not a race. They are Jews of all races. There are black Jews and white Jews.
I want to say this before I keep going any further. This man is not one of them like crazy religious people. He's like starting off from the reference like the wording he using is making it make sense already. He ain't coming from this like he ain't coming from this from like a thing where anything in this book makes sense. He coming from a point of view like the only thing that consistently makes sense to identify as is this. It's not a race. It's not none of that other stuff. And when you understand how deep that is, then you can break through the bullshit. The first thing he already breaking through the bullshit. He breaking through the bullshit of the identity politics aspect of being a Zionist. Like, because the idea that they had to present to the world is that, oh, we just free, open-minded, loving society that's been attacked by, these dirty fucking demonistic Palestinians and Hamas. And that's mostly because they hate us because we're white. That's basically what they're breaking it down. They hate us because we're white and we believe in Judaism. And that's not, they don't even believe in this shit.
Brown Jews. Jew is not an ethnicity. There are Jews of all sorts of ethnicities. Makes no sense to say that the Ethiopian Jews and the Yemenite Jews are of the same ethnicity as the German and Russian Jews. It also makes no sense to say that you can convert to an ethnicity, even though you can convert to Judaism. It will be difficult to believe that Ivanka Trump and Sammy Davis Jr., who claims to have converted to Judaism, are both of the same ethnicity, right?
So we're destroying, he's already one by one destroying the identity aspect of it, where they're trying to say that in order to have a nation, you have to have an identity. And he's a rabbi, and he already know in their book they say they can't have their own nation. It's sick. Whenever you start having your own nation, you start doing fucked up shit to defend it, and that's why Israel's doing what they're doing. Not only that, that's why the Orthodox motherfuckers don't fuck with the idea of ruling a nation or something of that order. So the aspect of where he's like making examples of saying like Sammy Davis Jr. and these people can't be the same ethnicity. He's black, she's white, but they believe in a religious idea. It ain't got shit to do with no ethnicity. So you can't form a nation without an identity. You can't say we got the nation of Israel based off of like everybody here having the same ethnicity. That's a lie. He's breaking that lie down, coming from the mouth of a rabbi himself. Yahoo's ass is cooked.
I don't know. I often confuse them.
A lot of people are confused when they talk about the Zionist definition of Judaism. So you have a lot of company there. There are real converts to Judaism. King David came from an ethnic Moabite family. Ruth converted to Judaism, and King David is her great-great-grandson. You can convert to an ethnicity. In addition, by Jewish law, if your father is not Jewish and your mother is Jewish, you are 100% Jewish. That doesn't follow the DNA rules of ethnicity. Ethnicity depends on your ancestry and your culture and things like that. But Judaism has very precise rules and guidelines as to what constitutes a Jew and what does not. And this has been upheld for thousands of years. Jews are also not a nationality. Jews have had no national characteristics, meaning we've had no common land, language, or culture for thousands of years. The Jews had no flag. Jews had no national anthem. Jews didn't even have a national symbol. The Star of David wasn't the national symbol of Jews. It's a Kabbalistic symbol.
This man dropping atomic size knowledge fucking missiles on these people. And it's not gonna slide by me, because what he's basically he's literally saying, like, even the Star of David, all these things that, like, in order to make a nation, you have to have certain symbols. Like I said, an identity. And what a part of identity is what you wear. And he's basically saying, like these things that bring us together, like these symbols, they not even really they ain't got shit to do with the real religion at all. It's being used by people who are infiltrating the religion in order to accomplish a goal that has nothing to do with it.
Symbol, it represents certain concepts in Judaism, but it's not the symbol of our religion. I mean, it has no holiness in it. You're allowed to throw it on the floor or in the garbage or something like that, it's not considered a Jewish holy object or a Jewish holy symbol. The definition of a Jew is it's a religion, but there are non-religious Jews. That's true. And the reason for that is because every religion has its rules. And the rule of Judaism says that when God gave the Torah to Moses on Mount Sinai, whoever the Torah at that point required to fulfill the law of God, the 613 commandments, that by definition means you're a Jew. If you weren't obligated by that revelation to fulfill the 613 commandments, you're not a Jew, you're a Gentile. Gentiles are obligated to fulfill 7 commandments. You're allowed to throw it on the floor or in the garbage or something like that. It's not considered a Jewish holy object or a Jewish holy symbol. The definition of a Jew is it's a religion, but there are non-religious Jews. That's true. And the reason for that is because every religion has its rules. And the rule of Judaism says that when God gave the Torah to Moses on Mount Sinai, whoever the Torah at that point required to fulfill the law of God, the 613 commandments, that by definition means you're a Jew. If you weren't obligated by that revelation to fulfill the 613 commandments, you're not a Jew, you're a Gentile. Gentiles are obligated to fulfill 7 commandments, Jews 613. Whoever is obligated to fulfill the 613 is considered a Jew, whether they believe that or not. Now, there are Jews in good standing.
So every religion has rules. So I'm making a religion and I'm making a rule book. And in a religion, I say, in a rule book, I say, every body who follows, I'm gonna make 500 rules. If you can follow 300 of these rules, then you will be considered this identity, like this rank. We'll say this rank. And even if you don't necessarily intentionally believe in the whole way I deliver you this, even if you don't believe in the way I deliver you the rules, if you abide by them, technically you are still that rank in that identity. Is that what he's trying to say? Because that's a big contradiction. I mean, everything has a contradiction sometimes, but I mean, I'm gonna let him go a little bit further. Let's see.
Jews in bad standing, there are traitorous Jews, there are treacherous Jews, but a Jew who was born, he is a Jew if he is obligated to fulfill the 613 commandments. So if you really want to be precise, being a Jew in the most accurate way to describe it is a job description given by God. God said you are deputized into this religion, you are obligated to fulfill these commandments, whether you do them or not. The obligation, the job description, defines you as a Jew. Now, there are all sorts of legal questions that we have regarding very precise, very, very precise laws as to what's considered a convert. You can convert into Judaism. You cannot convert out of Judaism. If a pregnant woman converts, her child is considered Jewish when it's born. It's a question. It's a disagreement amongst Jewish scholars whether the child is considered a convert, having converted together with the mother, or is it considered born Jewish because the mother converted before the baby was born? It's a question in our legal scholars. It's a disagreement. The difference is because if a child is converted when he's a minor, when he comes of age, he has the ability to renounce his conversion and say, I don't want to be Jewish. If you're born Jewish, you don't have that right. If a woman is converted while she's pregnant and she has a baby, when that baby becomes of age, bar mitzvah or bas mitzvah, is that baby now, who's an adult, allowed to renounce their Judaism? Is it considered?
When you say they don't have that right, is that because people are babies, they do them certain rituals on them to basically engage a certain mind? be a certain way. Is that what you mean by that? I can't think of anything else. I can't think of any other reason. I can't think of anything else it would mean. Like if you born a Jew, what does that even mean? If you born a religion, knowing that religion is like a certain lifestyle combined with a certain belief, then that's impossible for somebody to be born that. It's in a religious idea though. Them doing certain rituals at the birth of a child, while the mother, I guess, lived that lifestyle, the Jewish lifestyle, while she was pregnant, then that automatically makes the baby Jewish. Like,
Born Jewish or converted? So these are questions.
Zionists would be like, they are Jewish if they can shoot a gun.
Well, you know what? That was actually Jabotinsky kind of sort of hinted at that. You know the quote? He says, as far as what we need to teach our children is how to shoot, you know? Now, the Zionists, Jew. The Zionists, I give you a little quick history of how Zionism came into existence. They looked at Jews the same way the anti-Semites did. These were assimilated Jews, non-religious Jews, who looked at Jews as disgusting, immoral, weak, ugly, cowardly. And all the types of stereotypes that you find amongst the anti-Semites, you find in the original early Zionist writings. Their first solution was,
I guess my question at that point would be like, obviously Jews believe in a very loose religion. I would say like a very loose identity / religion. And my whole question was about to be though, like, why would y'all let them in if they were saying all this shit? Why would y'all let them in? I mean, like, obviously it's manipulation involved in some aspect, but looking back on it, damn, why did y'all let them in, bro? Like,
to assimilate. Theodor
gotta know.
Herzl, who was one of these people who really didn't like Jews, he had an idea to convert all Jews to Christianity. He wrote about it in his diary. There was this fantasy he had where all the Jews are going to line up one Sunday afternoon, I believe it was Sunday, if I remember right, and go to church and be baptized and convert, except Herzl himself is one Sunday afternoon, I believe it was Sunday, if I remember right, and go to church and be baptized and convert, except Herzl himself is he considered born Jewish or converted? So these are questions.
Zionists would be like, they are Jewish if they can shoot a gun.
Well, you know what? That was actually Jabotinsky kind of sort of hinted at that. You know the quote? He says, as far as what we need to teach our children is how to shoot, you know? Now, the Zionists didn't want this definition of Jew. The Zionists, I give you a little quick history of how Zionism came into existence. They looked at Jews the same way the anti-Semites did. These were assimilated Jews, non-religious Jews, who looked at Jews as disgusting, immoral, weak, ugly, cowardly. And all the types of stereotypes that you find amongst the anti-Semites, you find in the original early Zionist writings. Their first solution was to assimilate. Theodor Herzl, who was one of these people who really didn't like Jews, he had an idea to convert all Jews to Christianity. He wrote about it in his diary. There was this fantasy he had where all the Jews are going to line up one Sunday afternoon, I believe it was Sunday, if I remember right, and go to church and be baptized and convert, except Herzl himself is going to be the last Jew. And then there won't be any more anti-Semitism. And not only that, but Jews will forget that they're Jews. They won't be Jews anymore. And they will live happily ever after. Anti-Semitism was attributed to the faults of the Jews, besides the anti-Semites' own inadequacies. They figured that if
What type of horny ass shit was that?
If you change the Jews, the anti-Semites won't hate them anymore. So basically, the Zionist plan was to change, to end anti-Semitism by changing Semitism as far as Jews are concerned, by eliminating that. The problem with the original plan, assimilation, is that it didn't work. In the late 1800s, there were pogroms, primarily in Russia, which showed the Zionists, or the assimilated Jews actually, that assimilated Jews are still Jews and they're still hated. But now that's where the identity crisis comes in. The subtitle of my book is Zionism's Journey from Identity Crisis to Identity Theft. The Zionists didn't understand this. They were thinking, why do people hate us if we're just like the Gentiles? We're just regular Russians. Why do they look at us as Jews? That's a very good question. I once asked an anti-Semite, a real famous, I don't want to say his name, real famous anti-Semite, how do you decide who's a Jew? He says, well, whoever identifies as a Jew is Jewish. Now,
was it Netanyahu?
Very good. No. Netanyahu would have had another answer, although I do consider him an anti-Semite. The Zionists had said to themselves, hey, we don't want to be Jews, but the Gentiles won't let us be Gentiles. So what are we?
So right here we have a rabbi himself saying that, his definition of an anti-Semite itself is considered people like Netanyahu, which makes sense. And I can completely, he ain't even got to go into detail. I can go into detail. I'm not going to. All I'm going to say is this. He defines anti-Semitism as something completely different than the people in Congress and the psychopaths that he is probably even talking about as anti-Semites, trying to set up the narrative to make, Jewish people look like fucked up people who support like this fucked up agenda. And America's trying to be like, oh, we're trying to tell Netanyahu not to do this, but really, obviously, they're funding it and they have been from the beginning. So
that was the identity crisis. And many scholars have used that phrase in various contexts. It was an identity crisis. So they came up with what I call identity theft. We're going to change the definition of Jew. Nationalism was just starting in those days. This was the 1800s. It was the Balkan people and others. Nation states started being formed in those days. And they said, hey, nationalism worked for so many people, let it work for the Jews as well. So we're going to change the definition of Jew to a nationality. Until the Zionists, nobody looked at the Jews as a nationality. There was maybe Spinoza was a quirky exception, which is one of the reasons he was excommunicated, because he just wanted to change the definition of Jew, but nobody really followed any of this stuff. There were early Zionists like Moses Hess and even Emma Lazarus, who wrote that poem on the Statue of Liberty. She was a Zionist too. There were pre-Herzlian Zionists who believed this, but it was just started in the 1800s. And that was the plan. So the plan was to change the definition of a Jew to a nationality. And the idea was that once the Jews change their definition, the way they look at themselves, the world will change the way they look at the Jews as well. The Jews will also, by changing the way they look at themselves, change their personalities, change their ideology, change the way they act, the way they behave, and change their aspirations and their values. Whereas previously, Jews were, as the Bible describes it, Mamleches Kaihanim V'Goy Kadosh, which means a people who are enjoined
what the fuck did he just say?
By God to fulfill this religion. Think Shaolin temples, that type of thing, except instead of a mountaintop, they were in ghettos. And the Jews themselves, about 1,000 years ago, were the ones that suggested they live in ghettos. They wanted to be separate, socially and culturally separate from the rest of society, loyal to the countries that they live, absolutely. But culturally, and socially separate because we have our own laws, we have our own lifestyle, and they were. There were assimilated Jews that didn't like that. And when they had a chance to break out of the ghetto, they did, thinking, as I mentioned, that assimilation is going to end anti-Semitism and they're going to be like everybody else. When they saw that didn't work, then they tried nationalism. Nationalism is another name for Zionism, Jewish nationalism. That's all Zionism is. But
So a lot of the conspiracy, but what's interesting to me, that a lot of the stuff he's saying is that a lot of the conspiracies that were formed around Jews over time were really just them trying to like figure out how to survive in the world with their ideology that they really can't be a part of a national state. They just want to. They at first they tried to assimilate it, and then now he said that didn't work. So now they wanted to try nationalism, and over time they got they wish and shit. Obviously with the Balfour Declaration, but um, that's
the thing to know about Zionism is that whereas the Kurds, for example, look at themselves as a nationality and they're trying to find a state, right? The Jews never did. The Zionists had to convince the Jews that you are not what you think you are. You are not the Mamleches Kaihanim V'Goy Kodesh. You are not a people who are enjoined by God to fulfill this religion, these religious laws. You are a nation. You need a language. You need a flag. You need a country. Because Jews didn't share a language for 2,000 years. More than for thousands of years, we hadn't spoken Hebrew. In biblical times, they did, but that wasn't the national language of the Jewish people, meaning that's not what.
wow. Eat, bro. It's only 15 minutes in, bro. This man just said even Hebrew. First he said the Star of David. Now he's saying Hebrew. The idea that Hebrew, the language, was spoken all this time by the Jewish people. He said they ain't it for 2,000 years. They supposedly haven't spoken it for 2,000 years, and then all of a sudden, the Zionists were like, "Oh, let's bring this shit back, aka let's create a like what the, bro? Let's steal some shit. Let's steal some shit, rip it, and then mix it with some new shit."
What
They just can't
united
stand it.
us into being a people. The only thing that united us into being a people is our Torah, our faith. It was so well known that this quote that we are only a people because of our faith, it's over 1,000 years old. And it was like the meme of Jewish identity. Even Theodore Herzl mentions it in his diary. Everybody knew that. The Zionists had to change that. And because Jews had no flag, they had no common language, culture, or land, the Zionists had to provide them with it. The Zionists set out to synthesize a new nationality. But
These niggas is they
instead of
devil.
creating a new nationality out of nothing, will stand and we'll call
Like the
ourselves the
Canism that you refer to.
the Canaanim, yes.
Yeah.
So yes, very good. There was this small group of kind of like Zionists called the Canaanim that decided to create a new nation. The Canaan is named after the people who were occupying, who were living in the Holy Land before Joshua came in there and conquered it. And they decided, okay, we're gonna make a new nationality. We're the Canaanim. It didn't never hit it off because why would anybody identify with that? So the Zionists, Theodore Herzl mostly had this brilliant idea. You know, if you want to if you want to change your identity, a witness protection program or something, you can get the government to give you a whole new identity, and that'll work. But there's a lot of resources and time and effort spent to create such. There's another way to do it that's easier. Kill somebody that's around your age, steal his papers, steal his birth certificate, steal his license, steal his identity, and you're him. That's what the Zionists did to the Jews collectively. We're going to erase Jewish identity. We're going to take their history.
We'll have to do a part 2. That's enough. This man is literally just like the reason why this is hitting home for me. Like it's not like I didn't know this stuff. Like the depth of like evil, the depth of evilness, the cycle of hatred. Not like I didn't know. It's just the fact that hearing it come from somebody who considers himself to be a dedicated rabbi. I mean, for all I know, this motherfucker might be a paid actress. I don't think it is. Obviously, he writes books and he's a rabbi. He's well known. So I believe this is a very genuine man describing stuff from a point of view where a lot of people from different aspects were saying, but they didn't really know how to piece it together. From the point of view of somebody who's just an innocent rabbi studying his fucking faith and religion, this is what it's supposed to be. He's supposed to be the example. Like basically, he's saying like there is no culture that held them together. There's no language that held them together. There's no symbols that held them together. It's only their faith and the Torah. That's it. And out of nowhere, these people came out of nowhere. These psychopaths, literally psychopaths, because he described in detail how they do it. He said, "Hey, it's easy to go apply to get your name changed and all this other stuff, religious change, or you can just go kill somebody and then take the identity, basically." And he went on to say it was on a collective level, but I feel like when he said on a collective level, yeah, he's talking about like they took the identity of it, like Judaism, because they really don't believe in it. They kind of hate it, and they just wanted to like show like, oh, this how easy it is to take this shit over, and then they just like come and take your bike, and then they don't even ride the shit. It's just in the garage and shit. You piss on it every day. Piss on it every day, and then it's like when you come, you be like, where my bike at? You be like, here go your bike, nigga, come ride this shit. But you gotta bring it back in 5 minutes. And you ride that shit like you ride it because you ain't got no choice. You got this faith in this bike. It's just like, yeah, this is a great video. We're gonna have to do a part 2. I don't know if I'm gonna do a part 2 or just group it together. Either way.